welcome back. Yes.
Sicko!
Today's subject is labour. Now, you're going to get countless stories. A lot of people are going to be telling you numerous situations that potentially could come, from all the screaming to the labour to the breaking of your hand. All this noise, you just drone it out, ignore it. 90% of labour compared to every other mum that's giving birth is likely going to be the same. You're not going to be expecting anything out of the ordinary with a birth. There's nothing a hospital hasn't seen before. So you're not going to be the 1% case that's extraordinary. So just ignore it and just stop thinking about it, really. So arriving in a hospital is very, very simple. Once you arrive and you get on the labour ward, meet the midwifing staff and the guys that will be looking after you on the day and night shift. Every single part of this is a really casual encounter. Everything's a really simple discussion. It's just asking basic needs, checking over your birthing plan, and the way you're expecting the pregnancy to go. Obviously, there's always a situation that it might end differently to how you plan. They have to kind of plan for everything in the way they do this. So obviously, they always have to plan. So all they're doing is just making sure they've calculated each scenario that you plan on, and then making sure there's contingencies in place for that. Once you're invited into your room, it looks a lot like a kind of a student flat with a medical bed in there, really. Labour is always done in a single person room, so there's no shared rooms. Everything is single. Warning, you may encounter the occasional noise. Commonly from my experience and my partner's experience, our room was very well soundproofed. You didn't really hear anything unless it was the inconvenience of our door being opened and there was a woman giving birth, of which you can expect you're going to hear a noise. It's almost impossible for a woman not to make a noise when she's pushing a child out. Yeah. During this process, it's really, really simple. Your partner will be laid down on the bed. They'll put a heart monitor on her and a heart monitor on the bump. There's a machine which will track both of those heartbeats and constantly makes a printout that the staff will pop in every now and again and they'll just check. Don't feel concerned at any point unless the staff tell you to be concerned. All of this is bog standard procedure for the midwifing team, so don't panic when people start coming in and taking readings off the printout. It's very, very normal. They do it every hour or so, or every interval. They need to do it on a checklist that's for the baby and your partner. My suggestion is keep your partner busy. It's a boring process, this part of it, even though it's a magical experience for you and your partner because your child's about to arrive. It's notoriously boring. So if she's got a book, bring a book. If she's got something like a Switch or any kind of mobile gaming that she enjoys, or if she's arts and crafts, bring something in that just takes the time away from her, or put Netflix on your laptop or something you can both chill out and do together. There's going to be countless hours. My partner was in labour for 16 hours with our son. She slept most of it. Because I don't know how people do it. I can't sleep for long. I can't nod off, unfortunately. So I was just staring into the abyss out the window, looking at a construction worker going to the portaloo about 12 times a day, which makes me question: does he have diarrhea? Anyway, back to it. Labour is very, very, very straightforward. You'll get checks constantly every hour or so. They'll come in. Once you reach a certain point, the dilation is becoming a bit more towards 10 centimeters. For those of you that don't know, dilation is when your partner's tuna canoe expands to the point that the winning sperm is on the way out. So so once you get to this point, the dilation, the nurses will be in this room. They'll be constantly doing physical checks with your partner. Some of it's intrusive, so say that, yeah, you get it. But you'll hear some sloshing noises. Just drown it out, or think of calm seas is what I did. So now we're into the labour scene. So before we get to this stage of your partner's feeling the contractions, she's starting to feel pain, what will commonly happen is the midwifing team will say, would you like us to call in the anaesthetist? What he's going to do is then administer the epidural to your partner. Now, for those that don't know how an epidural works, it's very simple, but it's also daunting.
Let me tell you something. All right. Let me tell you something.
Do not fucking look. Lads, if you're squeamish, turn the fuck away. Do not look. Trust me. What happens is a general anaesthetic is put into your partner's lower back or in the area that is most needed. General anaesthetic is essentially a numbing agent while they perform certain parts of the procedure. They lay a white template on your partner's back. What that does is show the outlines of all the tubing and everything, and it gives the anaesthetist an easier plan of how your partner's back looks, where he can put the injection in, or I say he based on ours was a male. But he or she can come in and they know exactly where to go. With this, what I can only describe as a freaking tent peg goes into her back. Now, she doesn't feel it. She won't know what's going on. She'll feel a coarse sensation of the liquid once it's administered. You, on the other hand, will not be able to think about camping for at least a year, because every time you look at that, you'll think, that was in my partner's spine. That was in her back. I'm never camping again, because it's a beast. That's how it is, a beast. Friends of mine, I've had stories from a lot of friends of mine that said, oh, they collapsed when they saw. I thought when their child was born. No, it was the epidural tent peg that went in where they keeled over on the floor. Just bear in mind, the staff are there for your missus. If you've keeled over on the floor, they're just going to step over you because you're kind of just an obstacle in the room at this point. I'm a key figure of doing that. Whenever something's awkward, you want to crack a joke to break the awkward silence. Don't do it. Don't do it. There's nothing worse than 5 different women in a room and an anaesthetist that had very little bedside manner anyway, all turn around and just stare at you after you make a joke about her nun. Yeah, needless to say, my balls shriveled up in my ass. Once the anaesthetist is done, the epidural's in, your partner is then bedbound. She can't move, she can't walk, she can't use her legs, so she is then permanently bedbound. So keeping her mind active. She may want to be sleeping at this point, which is the rest. You'll be advised to rest more than you think. So if she's trying to sleep, lads, try and get your head down as well, because the labour could be long, the birthing could be long, and you need to be alert and you need to have the energy to get through it, just as to make sure that she's supported the entire way through. So if she's conked, try and get your head down for a bit. If not, just walk up and down the room or go to the toilet, or just break pattern a little bit so you don't feel like you're kind of zoned out. Hours down into this process, the epidural works on a button delivery system in the UK. So once your partner feels that she needs it, she presses a button which is kind of attached to the bed, and it will administer a dose of the epidural to her. It just kind of tops her up on the pain tolerance to keep her comfortable. Your partner will get to the 10 centimetre dilation point, which means she's at the maximum point for birth. So her birthing canal is wide open. You can see Aladdin's cave. There's all sorts of waves crashing off the inside, the noise, everything. Don't make that joke. Again, this is where I'm pretty sure I nearly end up in A&E from the nursing staff. It's a very, very quick process now. Once your partner's ready, legs go up into the stirrups, you know, and like instantly you turn around and it's just like that. Yep. Yeah. If you can be next to your partner at this point, if she's about to start pushing, the nurses will tell you to grab a chair and sit next to her, like be near her head. Reaffirm positive affirmation, tell her she's doing a great job, but they may also need you to relay messages they're sending, because when she's pushing, when she's screaming, they can't hear a thing. Even when you're next to her head like that close, she can't hear a thing. All she's hearing in her head is, get this humongous watermelon out of me. So she's going to be pushing, she's just be there, listen to what you're being told from the staff and relay it if she's not hearing you. That's all you've got to do. Hold a hand, do what you need to do as a partner and get through it. For us, our son was born in Durham Hospital, and I couldn't thank the staff there enough. They were amazing with my partner, they were amazing with my son when he was born, and they didn't need to be, but they were also amazing with me due to the situations of the birth, of how it ended. When my partner got to 10 centimetres, for our situation I refer to, our son wasn't coming. He was too big, he was too chunky, I guess, and he wasn't coming out. So what we had to do is we had to essentially opt for the forceps, which is essentially barbecue tongs for those dads that have not heard of them yet, which can do more harm than good to the baby. It can cause bruising, it can cause unnecessary stress to baby and mum. And the nursing staff and the doctors that done the final review came in and essentially said, we have no option, it's going to have to be a C-section. For those that don't know what a C-section is, it's called cesarean section, or C-section for short. What that is classed as major surgery. This is why I'm dead serious on this. Do not undervalue or undercut what this is. It's major surgery and it's serious. Obviously there's a risk of life or death to both your partner and the baby if worst case comes to it. So this is why I say treat it as serious as it is, because it's very, very daunting, more for your partner, but for you that feels helpless because you can't do anything in the room. You can't protect them in a way. C-section is what will feel like an eternity for you is almost instant. For us, my partner was given an A4 document just as I was. We had to read the risk versus reward to what C-section is, but we knew it was the only outcome for both baby and mum to be safe. We signed a document that I believe is like an indemnity form that just protects the hospital in case something goes wrong. It is bog standard boilerplate. They have to ask you and they have to inform you of everything because they don't want to take you in there and then you just be terrified without at least understanding the procedures and the process. So just listen. This is the only time I'll tell you to like genuinely listen to what you're being told, as much as you'll be freaking the fuck out, I promise, because I was. My brain fried bad, and I had to compose myself because my partner was terrified. And as kind of the man in the situation, you have to see sense, you have to listen, you have to be next to her, calm her down as best as you can, tell her it's going to be all right, because this is probably the most fearful I've ever been in my life. She's then wheeled straight in to the operating theatre. For us in Durham, it was essentially across the hallway and into the operating theatre. It's nothing like what you'd expect in like Holby City, where it's long hallways and lights. It's essentially just through one door and in the next. You're then thrown a set of scrubs by one of the nursing staff and says, look, quickly get changed, get your hair net, or get the hat on and everything, and come through the side door here. We'll meet you and we'll just brief you up. The doctor, for me, was absolutely lovely. She calmed my nerves, explained how this situation and the process is going to work. And she just kind of instructed me on what she needs me to do for my partner, where she needs me to sit. And she just gave me a very, very 30-second outline on what's going to happen. And just don't worry about it. That was all I was told, is don't worry about it, because I think she knew that I felt terrified. There's nothing wrong, lads, with feeling a bit scared at this point. I promise you it's not. There's nothing that makes you less of a man for being scared about major surgery, because you're not human, I don't think, if you're not terrified in that moment for your partner, because it's daunting. You'll go straight into the room. Your partner will be essentially being prepped for surgery. It's very, very quick. You'll have multiple staff from different things preparing for your child. There's usually neonatal staff awaiting your child to come out so they can do their checks and make sure your little one's okay, which is automatically done anyway. You'll have nursing assistants, or you'll have operation assistants in the room that are helping the doctors doing the procedure. You're going to see about, I'd say, around 10 people in the room. The anaesthetist will be at your partner's head, so he'll be talking to you through the operation as well, because he needs to be present in the room during the operation to make sure your partner, if she needs more drugs or she needs something different, then he'll be in the room to administer that straight away. So the only person you're really going to be speaking to is your partner, and the only person you're really going to hear the most is the anaesthetist that will be at your partner's head talking to you both. So when you are sat down, the big curtain is already prepped on your partner. It's a big blue curtain. You're going to hear so many noises that sound like casualty in Holby City. I can't stress that. You will hear noises that you don't think are normal. You'll hear things like sizzling, you'll hear beeping, you'll hear pumping, everything going on, and you'll hear doctors talking. Try to zone it out as best as you can, because you're hearing their instructions of what they're doing, and if you've got half a brain and you kind of twig, then you'll kind of put two and two together and you'll start drawing imagery of exactly what's going on the other side of that curtain. Now, unfortunately, because the angle I left back, because I got cramp in my leg, I looked back and looked. So I looked at the operation. Luckily, I have a strong stomach, because what you see, as much as I'd like to make a joke, it's really daunting. It's really, really daunting to see your partner open. And I only looked for about a split second to then move straight back in and kind of go, what the fuck did I just say? Do not gain curiosity to look behind the curtain if you're in that situation. You do not need to look. Just remember, you have to go back there for recreation, for fun. The image of your partner being cut open is not the thing that's going to get it shooting back up again, boys. I promise. Don't fucking look. Don't do what I did, because nightmare shit. Nightmare shit. Now, the process of your baby being out feels instantaneous. It really is. It was a very straightforward procedure for my partner. Our little boy was out in what felt like a few minutes. We heard his first cry, and he was held up over the net so we could physically have our eyes on our son for the first time. And he was with the neonatal staff for less than a few minutes while they weighed him, got the measurements for his birth, and got everything sorted, make sure his airways are clear. You'll hear all these things going on. Don't panic. These guys are really, really quick at doing this, and they'll wrap your little one up and they'll bring it straight to you and mum. For our situation, because my partner was having a C-section, they asked if I wanted to be the first person to hold my son. Now, as any man should, when your partner's just had major surgery, the very least you could do is make sure she's the first person with skin on skin holding your little one, which is exactly what I did. I said, please, can she hold him first? And so the lovely midwife that was in the room with us at the time just passed my son over to my partner, and then she just held him. I didn't hold him until we were in the recovery room, because I just felt like it wasn't my right to do that. I felt like my partner's just gone through a lot. The very least she deserves in that moment is to not let go of our son. Recovery is very, very quick. So she'll be patched up as best as they can. Obviously it's major surgery, so there's a major cut there, so they have to stitch it, they have to secure it, and they have to make sure that she's safe to move. So that'll take a few minutes. You will go out into the recovery room, which is commonly next door to the operating theatre, just in case of any emergencies and they need to go back in. So you'll be next door. Your little one is in there with you instantly. So if you're fortunate, you may be able to carry your little one. For me, I was just more happy with him being in the little cubicle they were pushing him in. I was more comfortable with that, because obviously you feel like they're like glass, and you crap yourself a bit. I definitely did. Your partner's then wheeled in, and your son, or your daughter, obviously son for our situation, doesn't leave your side. So your little one will not leave your side unless you approve it, unless you give verbal permission as both parents or the present parent in the room. Commonly it's mum, obviously being next of kin is mum automatically at birth. So once that happens, it's very, 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 very calm from this point. Your partner is getting checked over by the anaesthetist to see if she needs any more drugs. My partner felt a bit of pain, so she got shot up with morphine, and she was seeing some magical mushrooms. She was seeing some shit. So she was glazed. And then our little one was sleeping at the time for such a long time. Obviously, they recover. Newborns that aren't very active, they will sleep and have a quick feed, and then they just sleep. So don't expect much in the first instance. Just enjoy the moments, hold their little hand with your partner, and just enjoy that moment together as best as you can. Now, dads, you need to be prepared that you won't be staying in the hospital. With a recovery ward after a C-section, your partner will be taken to a recovery ward, which is on the other side of the ward she was on for labour, which is where baby and her will be looked after by a separate team of nurses and caregivers there. These guys are just as amazing as the labour team. They make sure your partner and your little one are looked after in every instance. My partner was in there, I think, for 3 nights and 4 days. Due to complications of the C-section, they need longer to recover and to make sure that the wound is stitched up correctly and that she's safe to travel when she's ready to. Our son was born with a little bit of jaundice and a milk deficiency, which means he needed to be in the ICU a little bit longer in neonatal. It was nothing strenuous, but for a first-time parent, seeing your son with a tube through his nose is a little bit daunting. So if that happened, don't worry about it. The staff are very good at communicating exactly what's going on with you. So again, just take on a bit of information from them and just sit with your little one if it ever gets to that point, and just enjoy the moments. It's nothing serious. For our son, I thought it was horrifying for me, but it was just a milk deficiency. So he was just being fed milk because he was burning too much energy. So he was just being fed milk through a tube through his nose until he was ready to stomach it himself. That was only a few days. It really was a few days, and it was done. You will have to go home on visiting hours. You don't stay in there all day. It's just like any other visit in hospital. Visiting hours separate you from being there and when you leave. So don't expect to be there for 12, 15 hours a day. It doesn't work that way. Go home, have a shower, get some rest, make sure the house is ready. Make sure that you've got everything you need on standby, that you're with your partner for the C-section. Make sure there's pillows on the sofa downstairs. Like the pregnancy pillow is going to be a godsend if you've got one. Like, make sure that it's as comfortable as you can for her when she comes home. For those that don't really know what to expect with a C-section when you're home, your partner is essentially has limited movement for about 6 weeks. So she can't lift anything other than her own body weight at the best. But she has to pull herself up. She can't stretch her stomach in any way because obviously the stitching is a risk, and you don't want to cause any stress to that area. You will be doing the maximum amount of labour in this situation. So you'll be looking after the little one as best you can, passing him or her over to your partner when she needs to breastfeed, or when she's doing anything kind of intimate with your child that she wants skin on skin, or just a cuddle. Once you're home, it's very, very straightforward. You'll get a couple of visits from the staff, sometimes sent from the hospital, but usually they're like the local GP staff. Their nurses and their caregivers will come out and just check your partner's stitching, just check the surgery post-procedure and see how they're healing, see how the little one is after anything they've needed to be, and they just track that to make sure both baby and mum are okay and safe at home. For a C-section, you have one last thing to do. You have to give injections to your partner. If you've got a needle phobia, man the fuck up. It's not hard. You'll be given a box of needles. The staff and the GP will show you how to do it, but what that does is prevent blood clotting in the area of where the C-section was. Other than that, getting home, it's very relaxed. You've got loads of time to spend with your little one, like as best you can. Make sure your partner's healing, eating, drinking, and then just as your little one is, put the shift in, help out as best as you can. If you're natural birth, when you're probably going to be home the same day as delivery, and you'll be home with your little one and your partner, just keep it slow, make it easier for her, take the weight off her shoulders, help her with everything, help her physically, and you guys you'll really enjoy the next few days at home. I felt like I was on dreamland for at least 72 hours when we first brought our son home, because the one thing you can't not do is look away. Like, you just stare at them religiously. If you've enjoyed the content, then please drop a like, drop a comment, and hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be posting more videos based on what it's like to be a dad, alongside baby and toddler content, with a lot more things I think dads should really be kind of planning for and really should know what's going to happen. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.